Welcome, everybody. It's Rev. This is going to be a tournament report for last night's locals. Um, this is the deck I played, and I went 3-1. So we'll go through um, the matches and some of my thoughts on the deck. So 3-1, that equated to basically second place, and $20 in store credit, which is fun. Because the way I do things is if I get store credit, I just save that up and then use that money to more or less just build other decks in Goat and Edison, and I might get into Tengu at some point. So uh, subscribing is always helpful. Supporting the channel, commenting, sharing, whatever it might be. So this is the deck Blackwings. I wanted to try something a little bit different with this deck. Because the more I played this deck and watched film, the more it felt like Whirlwind was imperative and it just kind of being a Whirlwind deck. So that's the reason for a lot of these choices, like the three upstarts. And really the only other kind of odd choices would be the Nobleman of Extermination in the main, which it was okay. I mean, it did allow me to basically, when I go second, if I have like a Shura or a Shura plus a Whirlwind or something, pop a back row and then go in. Really, the idea behind this and my body as a shield is to be able to play from hand and not just auto lose going second. So yeah, that's really the idea. I mean, with this deck, more than I think really any other deck in the format, like you just kind of have to get on board and stick a monster like Shura or whatever it is, and have to get it in the grave to fuel stuff like Blizzard. So, um, and then of course like stick monsters to be able to search with Whirlwind. So that's the idea. Uh, I don't know yet if this is the best version of the deck. But there are, I guess, one or two things I kind of want to talk about, like with building it, like 90% of which I kind of already covered, which is that I like the idea of being able to play from hand um, with these two cards, and I like the idea of being able to draw a card one turn early with Upstart Goblin, um, as opposed to Legacy of Yada. Now, I know Yada you can chain, but when you do set a card like Jar of Greed or Yada, you are in effect going -1 until you activate it. It's not doing anything. So Upstart, you just jam it and you move on with your life and you try to build a game plan from there. The one uh, argument I see against Upstart is that you basically set yourself back a turn with lethal, and it's like, hey, if you give them, 1 or 2,000 life points on average a game, uh, you're going to lose X number of games um, because you gave them life points. And, when people, let's say, activate two upstarts and then they lose when their opponent has like 1,700 life points, they're like, oh, I lost because I activated the upstarts. But like what people fail to realize is people do play to their life points, meaning that, they probably intentionally allowed some sort of buffer for their life points to get to that in the first place. So it's not automatically like if your opponent has less than 2,000 life points and you activated Upstart, then you would have lost that game because you activated the Upstart. But people play knowing that they have X amount of life points. So they'll hold traps and take extra damage or whatever it might be. The other point being that like getting your deck connected and everything basically in motion and sticking monsters one turn early usually equates to more card advantage and more damage than delaying that. So like there definitely are a ton of situations where you see a whirlwind or you get a target in the grave for Blizzard one turn earlier, which does decide the game. And that's the life point story is not going to tell you that. So, I think it's kind of misunderstood like the way people assess this card. And this is a game where there's never going to be a solid answer like on Yada versus Upstart. Um, we don't have like other games like Hearthstone, quantitative data over, tens of thousands of games a day to say, oh, this card's win rate is X, this card's win rate is Y, and compare those and see which one is actually better. But, in my opinion, for a deck that is looking to take initiative like Blackwings, um, Upstart just in my mind, almost just has to be better. Like you need to take the first step. Like you're not gonna sit in hand with Blackwings like you do with Christius Warn or any other deck. Like you have to make the first move, and you have to get aggressive, and you have to have answers, and you have to have Icarus attacks when they, you know, target your uh, let's say Shura with a deep prison, and you have to like simplify the game state. So it's like your deck has way too many conditional cards. Like all of them are kind of only good when you have other cards connected. Like I mean, just look at the whole monster lineup. I mean, Kalut standalone is ass, but it's good when you have other cards. Blizzard's the worst card of all time, but it's like the best card of all time when you have a grave setup. Shura is really, really mid, but when you have Kalut, it's god tier. Like all of these cards, like rely on other cards to be good, let alone like stuff like Whirlwind and Icarus Tech. Uh, so getting that earlier is better, in my opinion. All right, the last card I want to talk about, which I think is a standout, is um, Icarus Attack, actually. So I'm really, really questioning whether or not this is a 3 of in Blackwings, and I know that's heresy to a lot of people, but I just, I don't know. I mean, this card, like, I feel like like the breakdown goes like this, which is, let me try to think of like what percentage of time it is. Like, let's just say like 60% of the time you go 2 for 2 with this, and you have like even like a decent Blackwing on field, and you just have to remove back row after they maybe overcommit and set, and you go, okay, like end phase Icarus, blow up like a Bora or something, and your 2 back row. That's like 60% of it. 10%, it's really good, where it's like, yo, I summon something, I attack you, use a deep prison, and then I chain this, and then I blow up 2 other cards that you own for a +1. Um, but like the other 30% of the time you have this card is just like dead and does nothing. Or you have something you don't want to tribute. It's like, look, I know it's really good. Like if somebody uses removal on Shura and you can chain this, but like at higher levels of player against good players, they're just not gonna really give you the opportunity to do that. And like a lot of decks in this format just do play from hand. So it's not like they're just gonna set like 3 back row and then like a Raiko or something. Like it just the other thing being like with the Icarus attack, you don't want your Blackwings off the field. Like this is more of a contingency plan if they use removal. So like in my mind, the only time this is good is if your opponent plays like shit and they play into it and use removal on a Blackwing, and then you just blow up other stuff. So like the times where this is good is like I'd say like 10-15%. The times where it's just an average card is like 60%. And then the times it's like really, really shit when you like either can't activate it or you have something on field that you cannot afford to blow up um or tribute. Like it's just too much. So like I just really don't think that this card is a 3 of. Like I really think 2 feels right. Um like another thing being like most people have a road in their side still. Some people like have one in the name. Some people even have 2 in the 55, and you do auto lose to road. Like I'm not gonna put it like any other way. You just lose if you get roaded. So with a card like this, which is quite bad going second, that has an auto lose condition. Another thing I see is people just keeping 3 in games 2 and 3, and like I know you need to simplify the game state and swarm with your Blackwings, but I just feel like there has to be a better way to do that. Like I'm thinking like even if it were just Dust Tornado, like Dust Tornado seems better versus like most things. Like you just either snipe a back row like in the end phase, or you can stop stuff like Future Fusion or opposing Whirlwinds game 1. Um, like Royal Oppressions at the right time. Like Icarus Attack most of the time can't do that. There's just there's just too many times where there's just one thing on field, or you don't have a Blackwing, or the Blackwing that you tribute will lose you the game. So I think this card is the most overrated card in Blackwings. Um, So we'll see if that comes to fruition. So that's enough thoughts on the deck. I mean, the side deck is very standard. Um, Maybe I'll have one more thought on this after I tell you what my matchups are and like how my locals is shaping up. So, um, round one was a Christius one. So, game one, I opened Shura Whirlwind, went first, and just won the game quite decisively. Um, Game two, uh, embarrassingly enough, I kind of threw, quite frankly. Um, I I made a few misplays actually, and this was really really sloppy. Like my whole round one just it's just straight up embarrassing. Like so, I had a chance to set up Dark Armed, and I can't remember what the exact situation was, but there was a way I could like basically guarantee to get. It was like something with Blizzard, and I had to pull something from the grave, but like I could basically guarantee myself to get a Dark Arm, but he had an empty board, but I could have pushed for more damage, and I think he heralded something, and I wound up with four Darks engraved somehow, but there was a way I could have played around it. I frankly can't remember, so I fucked that up. And I I was down on cards and just basically just decided to go aggro. And I think if I had the extra damage with Dark Arm, I would have won that game too. And then there was some situation with Colossal Fighter where I think I colluded it, and then like I think I brought out like a Gale or something, and I might have even brought it out like in attack mode, and it was when he tried to attack into Ashura, and then he just ran it over again, and like I should have brought out like a Vayu in defense, so it was just like a straight up throw. Um, Although I don't think that play lost me the game, but it just was objectively the wrong play. So game three, um, I didn't draw very well, so no whirlwinds, no like good cards. My deck was kind of just bricking. Um, but I saw a line to basically OTK him, and we went to time. And on my turn, I basically brain conned and went for lethal instead. If you have Gores, I scoop. And then he didn't scoop, and I was like, wait a second. So I did the math again, and I was like 300 damage short. I would have lost anyway because he revealed his hand, and like I didn't have it out. I was at like 700 life points after brain control or something, and I had I knew I was playing around Judgment Dragon um, with Royal Oppression, so again, just kind of a I would have lost it anyway, but it was just like what the fuck? Like I don't know if I was tilted or just not paying attention or what, but I just miscalculated lethal, so a very very sloppy round one. Uh, so yeah, not proud of that, but I guess it happens. Round two, I played against Final Countdown, and it was just a casual deck, casual player, and you know, you know, Phase Icarus blow up your back row actually did turn out to be pretty good, and I just quite easily took that game uh, 2-0 very very quickly. Round three was also Christie Swarm, um, and in I guess so round one. Okay, so I'll go back to that. I opened Whirlwind and then didn't see Whirlwind any of the other games at all. Round two, I didn't see Whirlwind at all. Not just opened it, like I didn't even see it throughout the game. And then round three, I didn't see Whirlwind throughout three very long games. So I was a little bit frustrated. I was like, I like to open Whirlwind, but you know, not even seeing it at all, even late game is tough. Um, so the games were pretty standard. Um, Game one, I basically just was able to uh, get enough, I guess, tempo, if you call it, and just kind of run him over, and was able to stick an oppression and just keep him off like the JD oppression or JD what is it Orchard Christia stuff. Um, and then I also saved a solemn in what I think was like a really like heads up play. Like he made a few like very good plays to break my board, and I didn't solemn, and I held it because I knew that there was going to be a point in the game where I could set up a lethal and stop a JD if I held solemn, because I knew he was going to out the oppression at some point, which he did. So I think I played that very, very well and beat him that way. Um, Round, or game two, rather, of round three, Um, it was some back and forth, but at some point late game, he stuck a um, what's that card called? A Consecrated Light that I couldn't out, and I frankly was kind of drawing like shit, and he just ran me over. Game three, the same thing kind of happened. Like I just drew like shit. Um, but I was able to have a very well timed Royal Oppression, and um, he had a bunch of monsters in hand. And at that point in the game, I was like, well, if you have Gores, you have Gores. I'm gonna have to probably kill you in the next 2 to 3 turns. And you know, if you do have Gores, you probably win. If you don't have Gores, this is my only chance to win. And just got really aggressive. Um, I made a big synchro and stuck in oppression after I made my synchro, and just basically won it that way. So I think I played it well. I don't really have any qualms with my technical play in that one, and I was able to um, basically, have an Icarus attack ready for when he did set up a consecrated light, um, and basically was able to break that quite quickly. Um, and then, kind of know what to play around. One big thing with Christia Sworn or any Light Sworn or Mill deck is frequently checking the graveyard because, like, if you see one honest milled, you know that it's a lot less likely that they have that other one in hand, or if you see two honest milled, obviously they don't need to play around any of them. So, really just taking inventory of the grave and making sure that, you're appropriately playing around or not playing around certain cards and being like, okay, do I have to keep tabs on Necroguard and stuff like that? So, or even like I saw a shiny black sea. I think that's the card, right? Yeah, this card, shiny black sea. So knowing not to synchro with that engrave unless you have an out to it or something. So that was round three. Round four was Hero Beat. So this game, game one, I went first, opened Shura Whirlwind, and he couldn't out the Whirlwind, and he did dust shoot me turn one, which was his turn one. Well, I guess my turn two because I did go first, um, which was tough because he was pretty effectively able to play around certain things and like knowing when to use his back row properly and like what follow up I had. Um, but I mean, if you don't out Whirlwind, I mean, I just went plus like three on it probably and had a grave set up way sooner than I should have. So like even when he got like favorable, honest trades and stuff, like I just had enough card advantage to pretty easily win that game. Game two, he goes first, of course, and he does shoots me turn one, and my hand was a bunch of spells and traps, a black whirlwind, and a Sirocco. He sends back the Sirocco, and then I spent the next 6 turns drawing Icarus attacks and traps and had nothing. Like it was just literally like my deck did nothing. And he just ran me over. And then the only card I drew, which was a monster, was a Blizzard. So I just got totally blown out. Which with what otherwise I mean would have been a good hand. I mean if he wasn't able to send back my monster. Game three, I go first. I open Shura Whirlwind and go like that. And I made a joke. I was like, man, Black Whirlwind is glued to my hand. And then like he takes his turn, sets up, and then dust shoots me. So it was like 3 for 3 dust shoots, 3 for 3 whirlwinds, which was kind of funny. And so he dust shoots me, sends back stuff, but I, pardon me, had a bunch of monsters, so I just keep summoning whirlwinding. And his hand, I mean, he drew I think one monster, and he showed me his hand at the end of the game, and he just had like Gem Sparks and a Hero Blast. Um, So, and I think I even took a Stardust Dragon with Goyo at some point. Um, because I think he did like a BrainCon play. Yeah, he top decked a Diva, and I think he laddered up into a Stardust off of one of my cards, but I had a Blizzard into Goyo backed by Solemn to take it. Um, and just won that way. So that's really that. The thing that I was going to say about the side was I saw like another Lightsworn player there, and I know that there's a guy that came like in the last few tournaments that also plays Lightsworn. And then I saw like another fairy player one time before that. So like I think my locals is just like Lightsworn fairy, like the center of the universe. Like it's just crazy how much there was. So um I'll have to think about like what my side strategy is with that. But like maybe I'll slide in these or like maybe I'll choose a different deck and figure out like what to do with that. But overall, I mean, I'm happy that I went positive from a monetary perspective. The $20 store credit, but um, and I'm pretty happy with. Like, I think I played. I won't say perfectly, just because I'm sure if somebody saw, my gameplay, they could probably pick out like a few things that I at least could have considered doing differently for the last three rounds. But I'm happy with the way I played with those. And round one, I mean, it was just like it was a total flub. Like I'm pretty embarrassed with the way I played. It was like day one mistakes. I don't know. I wasn't warmed up, I guess. So kind of embarrassed about that. But hopefully I can clean up some of that gameplay um, next time. But let me know what you guys think of the deck, and I guess what some of my thoughts are. Um, Always open to disagreement as long as you're not being disagreeable on these cards, like My Body and Nobleman of Extern, Upstart, and then the third Icarus attack in this deck. I think defining Blackwings going forward is probably going to be some combination of these cards and what their ratios are. Um, Most of this is somewhat inflexible. I do like the second value, but there can be space issues, at least with the build that I'm experimenting with now. But some of my other builds do have the second value, and I quite frequently do like that. So just some thought there. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you later.